Let's talk about a huge, often overlooked asset in the corporate world. For years, companies have sent their top talent on international assignments. But what happens when those people, well, what if they just don't come back? Today, we're going to break down how you can turn these long-term expats from what seems like an administrative headache into one of your most powerful global advantages. So let me ask you, does your company have an expat blind spot? Because a lot of them do. They have this old school idea of a successful assignment. You know the drill. An employee goes abroad, does a great job, and then comes right back to HQ for a nice promotion. But that's not the world we live in anymore. All right, so here's what we've got on tap for the next few minutes. We're going to look at that outdated expat model. Then we'll introduce you to this new breed of global pioneers. We'll unpack their unique superpower, understand the huge cost of just letting them drift, and finally, lay out a clear plan to unlock their true value for your organization. Okay, first things first. Let's really pull apart this traditional model. For so long, that return ticket was just seen as a non-negotiable part of the deal. But as you're about to see, that's just not the reality anymore. So, back in the day, the playbook was super simple, right? A temporary assignment, maybe a few years, was your fast track to a bigger job back home. But the game has totally changed. Now we're seeing this growing wave of professionals who are staying abroad for a decade, sometimes even longer. I mean, they're building entire lives out there, marrying, raising kids, and forging international careers. And the research is pretty clear. Once you hit that 10-year mark, the odds of you ever repatriating drop way, way down. And this is where we hit the big problem, a massive perception gap. Instead of seeing these people as strategic gold, companies often see them as, well, a hassle. They become this administrative anomaly, this weird blip on the org chart that just creates extra paperwork. And let me tell you, that is a huge missed opportunity. But to really get a handle on this, you have to realize we're not talking about just one type of person here. This isn't some uniform group. We're talking about a diverse set of pioneers, and they all have very different reasons for being where they are. So the research breaks them down into four main groups. First, you've got your planted pioneers. These are the folks who moved abroad on their own and just planted roots. Then there are the station settlers. They started on a typical company assignment, but life happened. They met someone, their kids love the local school, and they decide not to come back. You've also got the free floaters. Think of your digital nomads, hopping from country to country for the lifestyle. And finally, the jet stream leaders. These are your top execs, rotating between global offices and really acting as the glue for the whole organization. So right away, you can see a one-size-fits-all approach just isn't going to work. All right, so we know who they are. But now let's talk about what really matters, what they can do. Because something incredible happens when you live and work abroad for that long. You develop this unique skill, well, you could honestly call it a superpower. And it's something you definitely can't learn in a weekend seminar. And that superpower has a name: deep cross-cultural competence. And let's be clear, this is not about knowing how to say hello in 5 languages. No, this is much deeper. It's an intuitive, gut-level ability to navigate really complex social and business dynamics. It's earned the hard way, through years of making mistakes, learning, and adapting. I love this quote because it says it all. They are the glue in complex multinational structures. They become that human bridge. They're the ones who can translate not just the words, but the intent, the cultural nuances between headquarters and the local team. So what does this look like in the real world? It's being able to hear what's not being said in a meeting. It's instinctively knowing when to be direct and when building consensus is the only way forward. It's about bridging that classic us versus them gap between the home office and the local teams. This is your on-the-ground human intelligence network. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. All of this incredible value comes with a risk. Staying abroad can be a double-edged sword, and if companies aren't paying attention, there's a really high cost to just letting this talent drift. Without real intentional support, these valuable people start to feel what's called organizational invisibility. That out of sight, out of mind feeling. They feel disconnected from the big decisions being made back at HQ. And pretty soon, they're being passed over for promotions and completely forgotten in succession plan. And this isn't just in their heads, it's driven by very real challenges. Their career path gets fuzzy, they're in a constant state of uncertainty about visas, taxes, pensions. Their families feel the strain, especially when a partner has trouble finding work. And over time, that disconnect from the home office just gets wider until they finally take all that hard-won knowledge to a competitor who actually gets it. So, how do we fix this?
How do you stop this talent from drifting away and instead lock them in as permanent assets? Well, the good news is it's totally possible. There's a clear blueprint for any manager who's ready to make a change.
It really boils down to 4 key steps, but it all starts with a fundamental mindset shift. You have to stop treating these employees like a logistical problem and start managing them as a strategic resource. It's about starting the conversation, keeping them connected, supporting their whole family, and helping them solve the real-world complexities of living in international life. Let's make this super practical. First, start the conversation. This means you proactively ask them about their long-term goals, not just assume they're coming home. Second, keep them connected. Pull them into strategic discussions at HQ. Make sure their name is on the list for leadership roles. Third, support the family. Offer real help for a partner's job search or for getting the kids integrated into new schools. And finally, solve the complexities. Don't leave them to figure it all out alone. Connect them with trusted experts who can handle the nightmare of taxes, pensions, and visas. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Your global pioneers are already out there, building invaluable knowledge and skills for your company. So the only question is, are you treating them like the strategic assets they are, or as administrative anomalies? Because the choice you make will define the future of your global workforce.